some of it's going to vary depending on what kind of hearing it is. If it's an IHSS hearing, there's a whole set of recommended things to do depending on what kind of services you're requesting. If it's for protective supervision, there are behavior logs. If it's for paramedical services, it's, documenting all the time you spent on things. If it's for something that's a medical service and the question is, and I mean, that's one thing to understand before going into hearing, is understanding what the question is that is being disputed at hearing. Is it a question of whether or not this is a service that Medi-Cal covers? Is it a question of whether or not it's medically necessary? Is it a question of whether or not the private insurance has paid what it's supposed to? Understand what is the question that has to be decided at hearing so that you can prepare appropriately. And then if the question is about medical necessity, just talk with the doctor and make sure that the doctor has articulated the medical necessity in writing on paper so that it's clear to whoever's reading it, whether this is an independent medical review or at a hearing, that you just haven't said it's necessary because it's necessary and that's the end of it. That's not enough. Like, you need, in some cases, you may even need to explain what you've already tried. Like for certain DME, for example, if there's a piece of DME where there might be, a generic over-the-counter version of it available, Medi-Cal may come back to you and say, well, why doesn't this other cheaper solution work for you? And you might have to explain from a medical necessity standpoint why that didn't work, why that's not an appropriate solution, why they need this more expensive piece of equipment. It's never going to be about what you prefer, right? It's going to be about what's medically necessary. So make sure that your documentation reflects that.
Have your facts, have your ask, and have your backup and your documentation for that ask.
And have your question. Know what the question is that's being decided, because it's not always the same thing.